It's time for Lefties Losing It. And we're going to start in the gutter tonight, folks. We're going to hear from the most reprehensible trolls on the internet, the profoundly delusional and nasty harridans, Joy Reid and Jennifer Welch, and some other dim Karen who's there also. What you're about to hear is the unhinged musings of irredeemably awful people, and I don't say that lightly. Listen and take note of just how low and ugly their comments are about JD Vance and Usha Vance. It's not just ugly, it's utterly divorced from reality.
They can't have the successor to MAGA be the guy with the brown Hindu wife. They're also Christian nationalists. That ain't gonna work. That's why he's throwing his wife under the bus. Poor Usha. Or she's in on it, right?
And
she's
playing slap and tickle with Erica Kirk's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Yeah, she's like in her Tammy Faye era.
Okay. Holding on the back of his head and rubbing on his head.
Some weird shit.
Baby. Don't do that to Jason. I'm gonna start thinking something's going on. Why are you holding the back of his head? I'm like, you're not doing that right thing. You're supposed to be a widow. You in leather pants?
Yeah.
That's not widow wear.
Could you imagine if...
Wouldn't it be the most perfect fairy tale, MAGA fairy tale?
Yeah.
If he finally sees the light that he needs a white queen instead of this brown Hindu?
White queen instead of the brown Hindu. I told you they're vile, racist and vile. That's what happens when you exist in a toxic echo chamber and have never mixed with someone who is MAGA or Republican. As for the slander of Erica Kirk, I'm sorry, but where does it say that a widow is obliged to be ugly and dowdy? We're now trying to shame a grieving widow for being too pretty? Is that what's happening here? And let's talk about that supposedly inappropriate hug between Erica Kirk and JD Vance. Let me play you the whole thing in full. It only lasts a few seconds. You tell me if this is scandalous. That was it. That was the hug. And Erica Kirk has since explained she was beginning to cry as JD Vance approached her. He told her Charlie would be so proud of her, and she hugged him and said, "God bless you." Whole thing lasted about 4 seconds. But let's get back to the vile race baiters, Joy Reid and Jennifer Welch and the other one. All they do is project and accuse their political opponents of what they themselves are guilty of.
Vance has a problem in that the base of MAGA is fundamentally racist.
Yep.
And I know people don't like it when you say it, but it's the emergence from the Tea Party to MAGA.
Yeah.
Tea Party, when you finally did the actual data, PRRI and others, the thing that most motivated them was race and hatred of non-white immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
What most motivates MAGA? Hatred of non-white immigrants. Yeah. They're obsessed with non-white immigrants and undocumented people. They use the term illegals, which is just the N-word for brown people.
100%.
If you want to say the N-word and it's about brown people, you say illegals. I'm sorry I said it again. That is me saying the N-word about that is what it is, right? And that's what motivates them.
So the word illegal, a correct, accurate term, a legal term, is now akin to using the N-word. Just genius stuff there. And to round up this lunacy, Joy Reid claims that Trump supporters will commit jihad for the president.
The fear is that if you don't obey him, his cult will try to kill you. People wanted to vote to impeach, but they were afraid that they'd be assassinated by Trump supporters because MAGA supporters are armed to the teeth. Right. They are rabid in their support of him, and it's a religion. And so they will commit jihad for Trump.
Yeah, it's the right that is committing acts of political violence. These people exist in a parallel universe. Now, let's hear from a woman who seems to be admitting to breaking the law by being blatantly racist, charging white people more for the same service for just being white. And she's supposed to be an attorney.
I love to overcharge white people and organizations and do pro bono work for black orgs. And that's just me being very blunt. I will give them ridiculous rates, and then I'll have like a nonprofit or a black org or somebody doing some work, and they'll be like, "I've only got this much money," and I'm like, keep it. A white person just cut me a check. Let's do this for free.
Charming, but it appears that she only discriminates against white people while at work, because in her personal life, she has chosen to be married to just about the whitest man in America.
I will stand with you between the heavens and the earth. I will tell you where you are. Do you love me?
I love you!
Now to New Orleans, the most dangerous city in America. Let's hear from the police superintendent there, Anne Kirkpatrick, who is clearly some sort of DEI hire because she doesn't even understand the law she's supposed to uphold. Here she claims that being in the country illegally is just a civil matter.
We have taken back our own ownership of our agency. To be in the country undocumented is civil issue. We will not enforce civil law.
Now, we may mock the leftist media endlessly in this segment, but rest assured they are not just worthy of mockery, but of condemnation. Look what they have done to this poor kid who is terrified that his family will be snatched off the streets and deported, despite the fact that they are citizens. This is what fake news can do.
I'm scared for my parents to walk out their house because I might not be able to say goodbye to them if they go to work. I'm scared that everyone that I love I'm not going to be able to see them again because even though that they're U.S. citizens, they don't care about us. They treat us like dogs. They treat us like animals. I should not live like this as a 16-year-old. I shouldn't be scared. I should be focusing on school, and I can't even focus on school.
Joining me now is the president of the Centre of the American Experiment and the man behind the popular Powerline blog, John Hinderaker. John, it's sad. It's terribly sad that a 16-year-old could have such a warped sense of reality, a warped sense of what's happening in the US. US citizens are not being deported, and yet that kid lives in fear.
Rita, it's completely nuts. You can't deport a citizen. There's no such thing. It makes no sense. But let's put the blame where it belongs. Democratic Party politicians have been going around for months now falsely claiming that the Trump administration is somehow deporting American citizens. It's a complete lie. It doesn't even make sense. And yet you see people like this poor 16-year-old kid actually believing it.
Now, talking about a warped sense of reality, tell me about this crazy story of a man, a biological male, winning the world's strongest woman competition, only to be stripped of the title after organisers realised that she was indeed a he and born a man. Jamie Booker was disqualified earlier today after destroying the competition at the official World Championship in Arlington, Texas over the weekend. John, sanity has prevailed in this case, but it's just another example of why this sort of lunacy had a massive impact in the 2024 election. One of Trump's most impactful ads was regarding this issue.
You're absolutely right, Rita. And the insanity continues. In my own state of Minnesota, our Supreme Court recently held that the USA Powerlifting organization is required to allow men to compete in the women's powerlifting division as a matter of Minnesota law. So this insanity, I think, is going to be with us for some time to come. And frankly, Rita, it is a gift to the Republican Party.
Oh, it is a gift. And some of those blue states, blue cities are persevering. And yet it is almost an 80-20 issue. Sometimes I think it's a 90-10 issue when the overwhelming majority of people think this is grossly unfair. It should not be happening. And yet you've got the political class, the media, activist class backing this sort of craziness. Now, I played footage earlier, John, of the New Orleans police superintendent, Anne Kirkpatrick, and she claimed that being in the country illegally is a civil issue and her police force will not enforce civil law. John, I don't know what to say about this. Can you enlighten the New Orleans police superintendent about the law, please?
I think so, Rita. Under Section 1325 of the United States Code, illegal entry is a felony punishable by up to 6 months in prison for a first offense. Now, it also is subject to a civil penalty, but the law specifically says that that is in addition to and not in lieu of any criminal penalties. And here again, this is something that you hear Democratic Party politicians misrepresenting frequently, and they're simply wrong about what the law is.
Well, how can you have people in positions like this openly defying the law? And how much of that is happening in the US, where in blue cities where there's great resistance towards the deportation program in particular, you've got people in positions of authority saying, we're not going to accept this. We don't care if there is a mandate. We are going to find a way not to do it.
We're seeing this across the country where Democratic Party mayors and sometimes governors are trying to interfere with the enforcement of federal law. That's what's going on here. It is illegal to be in this country illegally, right? And the Trump administration is carrying out its duty under Article 2 of the Constitution to enforce the law. And yet we do have these mayors and these governors literally trying to obstruct the enforcement of federal law. It's a real scandal.
It is a scandal, and they won't even use the word illegal. I've noticed that with the Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, and I heard Joy Reid earlier today say that the word illegal is the new N-word, John, so you can't even accurately describe an illegal immigrant by using the word illegal. They're trying to make that taboo.
Yeah, they like to use the word undocumented as if the guy just lost his driver's license or something. The correct phrase in the law is illegal alien. Okay, that is the correct legal phrase.
Now, sticking with New Orleans for a second, given this woman is leading the police force there, I can understand why crime in New Orleans is out of control. It has been ranked the most dangerous city in the US, and its homicide rate is dramatically higher than the rest of the country, John. How big an issue is crime in those big cities like New Orleans, Chicago, New York? Is it something that you see having an impact in the midterms, for example?
It's a huge issue across the country. It certainly will be an issue in the midterms as it was in 2024. But frankly, Rita, it's kind of a mystery. These cities like Chicago and New Orleans and many others that have been just riddled with crime for years. Why don't these people change their ways when they get to the voting booth? Why do they keep voting for these politicians who will not enforce the law? Honestly, it is very hard to explain.
Now, John, tell me about the continued fallout from a video of Democrat lawmakers urging US service members to refuse what they call illegal orders. They're supposed illegal orders. They don't spell out any of them. And they've been asked, some of them, in interviews since this video was released, and they can't name any. Donald Trump called the video seditious. And now the FBI has contacted the US Capitol Police to begin scheduling interviews with the 6 members of Congress who appeared in that video. Could we see charges here?
We might, Rita. I think that Senator Mark Kelly is the one who is in the most peril. And the reason for that is that he is a retired officer who is still subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He could be recalled to active duty and court-martialed. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it certainly could. You know, the seditious 6, as we call them, thought that they were safe because in the video they say you can disobey illegal orders. And of course, that's true. But they clearly implied, and I think was stated outright in that video, that the Trump administration is issuing illegal orders to servicemen left and right. And as you say, at least 2 of them have admitted, no, we don't know of a single illegal order that the Trump administration has issued. And what they don't say in the video is that military orders are presumed to be lawful and that philosophical disagreement is not a basis for refusing to obey an order. And so if there are service members who actually follow the advice of these 6 elected Democratic politicians and refuse to obey orders, they could be in real trouble. And so we'll see how this plays out. The FBI is going to interview them. I think Secretary Pete Hegseth is looking at investigating Senator Kelly with a view toward possibly recalling him to active duty and court-martialing him. So it's a serious situation.
Oh, it absolutely is. They're asking members of the military to defy the chain of command based on feelings because they can't name anything concrete, which was an illegal order. When Senator Elissa Slotkin was asked about this, I think it was on CNN, she just floundered, John. She was talking about A Few Good Men, a movie starring Tom Cruise, as an example of what could happen if you follow an illegal order. I mean, it is high farce, but if members of the military do listen to these individuals and defy a lawful order, they could find themselves in terrible trouble.
Absolutely. And inciting military personnel to disobey orders is a crime,
as Donald Trump tried to point out. Now, what's the latest on the cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James? Earlier this week, a Democrat-appointed judge dismissed the indictments against both of them on a technicality. She found the President Trump's appointment of interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan in Alexandria, Virginia, was invalid. Is the case dead, John, now against both these individuals, or are charges against Comey and James likely to be refiled?
Well, what's going on here, as you say, is that the court held that Lindsay Halligan was not properly appointed as an interim, important point, interim U.S. attorney. The court may be right about that. It's a close question under federal law. The real issue is, where do we go from here? The dismissals were without prejudice, which means that the criminal charges can be refiled. I assume that the criminal charges against Letitia James, New York's Attorney General, which are strong, will be refiled. However, the statute of limitations has run on the perjury charge against James Comey, former FBI director. So if this ruling stands up on appeal, that charge cannot be reinstated.
Oh, that one's interesting. Now, before you go, we've had Donald Trump overseeing 8 peace deals so far in his second term, but the most elusive one appears to be Russia-Ukraine. That seems to be getting closer and closer. How do you see that, John? Is that something that there could be a resolution to by the end of this week, possibly?
I sure hope so, Rita. That war needs to end. It's been an absolute catastrophe, both for Ukraine and for Russia. The problem is that the Russians so far have not indicated any willingness to back away from their core demands. They want to keep all of the territory which they have taken militarily, and they want to guarantee that Ukraine will not ever be allowed to join NATO, and they may want some kind of demilitarization of Ukraine. And so there's a new proposal now that the Trump administration has been working on with the Europeans and with Zelensky's government. And it apparently is now acceptable to Ukraine, but it's a huge question. Is it going to be acceptable to Russia? That's the real problem. And I don't know. All I can say is that so far the Russians have been adamant in not backing off on their demands.
We were told so often throughout this war that Ukraine had the upper hand, that Russian forces were depleted, they were demoralized, that they were being destroyed. Was there a bit of misinformation in some of that reporting? Because that doesn't seem to be the case when you look at it now, when you look at the territory that Russia has gained and the fact that they're not wanting to come to the table and make any sort of major concessions.
Rita, I think when the war started, the Russians believed they were going to march straight to Kiev, that they would have no problem. They would basically occupy Ukraine and, take over a large section of that country. That didn't happen. The Ukrainians put up a much stiffer resistance than most people expected. And so a lot of people were cheering on the Ukrainians, saying, this is great. The Russians are being stymied. And that's all true. However, the reality is that the Russians have taken and held that eastern portion of Ukraine, which frankly, historically was often a part of Russia and is largely Russian speaking. They've taken that part of Ukraine, they've held it. The Ukrainians have not been able to take it back. And my guess, Rita, is that in any permanent solution, the Russians are going to hang on to the territory that they have taken militarily.
John Heinderraker, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Great to be with you, Rita.
Welcome back. Joining me now is broadcasting legend Dee Dee Dunleavy. Dee Dee, let's talk about J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez. She's caused a stir on social media after clips of her performing at a billionaire's wedding in India began circulating. Have a look. Now, people have criticised her lack of cultural sensitivity. Some have said her outfits resemble that of a stripper. But Dee Dee, I'm more concerned about the terrible sound. The girl cannot sing. Turn up the backing tape. That's what I would be asking for.
Well, clearly she wasn't booked for her vocal abilities. She was booked for the way she looks. Look, I think all these people who are outraged on social media, it was a private event, so you've had to go out of your way to get outraged, so you can be quiet. I'm not the hugest fan of J-Lo waggling her bits about. She's showing us that she's 56, but she's still got it. Yeah, well done, girl. But the couple who were getting married, they paid $2 million for the privilege of having her there dressed that way. I don't think they expected her to turn up wearing overalls and gumboots. So they got what they paid for. They don't look offended at all. And I can't actually see what the outrage is about.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you should be just... when you've got a bride in the room and it's a party for the happy couple, I don't know if you should be upstaging the bride. So that's possibly
surely
another faux pas.
Everyone knows what J-Lo looks like, what she does. Like if the bride didn't know that before that day.
She could put pants on or a skirt. I mean, we don't all need to see... We're not her gynecologist. We can just leave some things a mystery. Now, last week, Netflix dropped the trailer for Meghan Markle's holiday special. I know you can't wait for that. You can see Meghan decorating her home in a green gown, and eagle-eyed viewers noticed this was the same green gown she wore during a 2022 photo shoot for Variety. And a source has told Page Six that Meghan allegedly took this gown, which retails for $1,695 US. Dee Dee, she allegedly took the dress from the shoot without asking. Surely that can't be right. Surely.
Well, it could be right, but I also am leaning more towards the fact that it's wrong. I'm 99% sure that she hasn't done anything wrong here, and it's rare for me to defend Meghan Markle. But she's crafty. I don't think she's stupid. I don't think she would be dumb enough to steal something. And also, it's not unheard of for celebrities when they do a photo shoot and they're dressed for it to be offered those garments or to pay a nominal fee for them or to even be gifted them. And also, I want to credit her for recycling. I mean, I like it when you put a dress away for a few years and get it out again and hope everyone's forgotten it. That didn't happen in this case. But I think she actually deserves credit for re-wearing something and burning it after wearing it once.
Well, I don't know, Dee Dee. I'm giving you a official warning for praising Meghan Markle on this program. So let's just count this as an official warning. A couple more and you'll be banned.
99. Yeah, okay.
Couple more and you'll be banned.
Okay.
No. You are free to love on Meghan as much as you like. But let's talk about Home Alone. It's a Christmas movie, a favourite for families, and the star Macaulay Culkin, who played Kevin McAllister in the 1990 holiday classic, he wants to have another sequel. He's raised the idea of him being either a widower or a divorcee. He said, I'm raising a kid and all that stuff. I'm working really hard and I'm not really paying enough attention, and the kid is kind of getting miffed at me, and then I get locked out. it could work. I mean, people love to revisit these classics and reimagine them.
I actually disagree that it could work, because in the original movie, Kevin was a very clever kid and the two robbers who were trying to get him were just a pair of numbskulls. So are we supposed to believe that Kevin as an adult is dumber than his own child? So the basic premise of it wouldn't work. The really terrifying thing about this story is that Macaulay Culkin was speaking about this at some sort of a tour he's doing to mark get this, 35th anniversary of the Home Alone movie coming out. I don't know where that time went.
Obviously, it came out before I was born, but, you know, that's, let's move on. Rebel Wilson, Australian actress Rebel Wilson, has been accused of orchestrating a smear campaign against one of the producers of her directorial debut film, The Deb. It's alleged Wilson was behind a series of websites where her producer, Amanda Ghost, is painted as a sex trafficker and described as the Indian Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Rebel Wilson sat down with 60 Minutes, Australian 60 Minutes, and she denied the claims. Have a look.
I don't know whether those texts are real. I don't know where they came from. I read the websites. I think it was very interesting what was on there. And I might have gossiped about it to a couple friends, but...
Well, the allegation is that you did more than that you actually pointed your followers on Instagram to those websites, that you ensured that associates of Amanda Ghost were made aware of the websites, that you posted on the Deb Instagram.
I don't have any memory of doing that, no.
Is it you don't remember it, but is it possible that you did that?
I don't believe so, no.
I do wonder why she agreed to this interview. I don't think she looks great. How do you see it? Because I don't know, if I was advising her, I would say do not say a word and just ignore this and hope it goes away as quick as it arrived.
Exactly. And I do think with a lot of legal cases, the best thing, and a lot of lawyers will say this, the best thing to do is just shut up and let the thing go through court. And if you're confident in your standpoint or where you stand in the case, then you would be quiet and let it just play through the courts. Whereas we've seen Rebel bob up on Instagram. She's got about 11 million followers and she's released statements on there. She's now done this 60 Minutes interview. The websites, we don't know who was behind those, but it seems that there's a lot of information coming from her side of things. There are two separate cases. There's this one involving 3 producers and then a separate one involving one of the actresses from the thing. And we have to be very careful because these cases are still yet to come before the court. But I'm a little like you, I'm a little sceptical about the fact that Rebel has got so much to say ahead of it being tested in a court of law.
And we're going to be particularly careful because Rebel Wilson is also litigious and she's had a couple of big wins over the years. So we'll let the courts decide who did what. Dee Dee Dunleavy, thank you so much for your time tonight.